this week, I am joining our Lunar Alchemy discussion from a different location. So I'm in southern Colorado now, near Crestone, which has a lot of sacred sites and a wide variety. There's like a yoga center, Zen centers. There's like a whole bunch of spiritually centered groups that have created space here. So it's really cool to join you from here. Hi, Bella. How's it going?
I was just spilling coconut water all over the place. So I don't know, something is flowing.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel like some things are up today. Maybe this is just the new normal. Since that last lunar eclipse, I don't know if you felt like it was kind of, I don't know, it was a pretty intense movement of energies in terms of just integrating and feeling into how things are moving and changing. So, but now we're in a new transit since that lunar eclipse, and the sun, we're close to the end of it already, I think. So the sun's moving through gate 16, which is one of my very, very, very favorite gene key transits. And our moon is slowly waning back towards new. Isn't that where we're at this point? I feel kind of upside down today. Bella, why don't you introduce this gene key and tell me about how you're feeling this week and what's been going on?
Yeah, if you would give me share
Yeah,
possibility as well. I think I'm going to just pull up the chart and say where it is.
that'd be great.
Okay. So that's so small. Okay. Oh, that's better. So yeah, I mean, what we are seeing here is in the 16, we have the North Node and the Sun. They're both there right now. The North Node is in the sixth. Oh my God, it's exactly conjunct. You can see with 2 decimals, it's exactly in the same placement. So the Sun is shining on where we are going. And here we can see the nodes, in the collective right now. The Sun is also the transit that we're all going through, no matter where you're on Earth, where the Sun is that's going to impact all of us. And there is something important, what I feel right now, that has to do with your trajectory. And even, do you know trajectory? We have a reflector chart today. Everything is white, nothing is defined. So maybe you are feeling upside down, maybe you are spilling coconut water all over the place. There is something beautiful with the 16 here. It's versatile. It's like, oh, with a little bit of coconut water or a little bit upside down, it's still going, and it even has a skill of being curious, of being playful in that. And that's really the higher frequency side, the beauty of this gene, of this energy. And of course, in a lower frequency, it can be pretentious about all the things it knows and all the things it has tried. And it can even have, in this Gemini energy, a bit of 2 faces, kind of the good one and the bad one. So I feel like a lot of things right now have 2 faces, or even you could say 2 truths, because what's on the other side of this Gemini, it's the South Node, where the Earth is as well. And here, so I feel like it's about, and also we have a square to Neptune that I think we mentioned already last week. So there is the logical truth and our intuition, and also the truth that somebody might want us to believe. All these tensions. We also have Mercury retrograde, which is a time for reevaluating. So I feel like there is a good chance to see things now with our trajectory as collective, as humanity, that we haven't really been able to see before. And of course, there might be a little bit of veil, there might be a little bit of a dreamer when it comes to Pisces, when it comes to Neptune, but really at the same time to be sound, common sense about where we're going, not also to exaggerate in Sagittarius, kind of like, being over optimistic. No, how can we be real? In the Mercury and Gemini, it's all about seeking the truth, and seeking the truth through intelligence, through logic, I would say. But it comes to use the intuition, to use our optimism, but not so that we get off center of what's true, is what I would say. And it feels quite a lot of energy right now, and a little bit easier maybe than normal to be swayed in all this openness that we have, at least right now. I know around the eclipse we also had 3 days of reflector charts where nothing was defined, and that's a bit of an interesting energy. Yeah, where would you like to go with the 16, John? Would you like me to share something about my own experience with it, or where do you feel like going? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that. And I sort of thought, Gene Key 16, it's one of the few gene keys that when I experience the spectrum, most of them, there's a shadow frequency, a gift. I mean, they all have shadow, gift, and a city, which is that transcendent frequency. And when I engage with that spectrum, the shadow frequency feels completely familiar. The gift frequency also feels very familiar, although maybe a little bit more exceptional. To me, often when I feel them as like this sort of oscillating movement between frequencies in our experience. I don't often come across a person who only exhibits shadow frequencies in a particular gene key. I don't often come across a person who only exhibits gift frequencies through a particular key. But gene key 16 is one of the few that I've encountered that feels like there is a smooth and steady transition between all of the various expressions of the frequencies available. When we look at indifference, versatility, and mastery, if we apply those concepts toward these ideas of skill, towards these ideas of logic, it suddenly becomes entirely accessible all the way through. Not that someone who has mastery of a skill never experiences the shadow frequency. I mean, almost all of us have mastered the use of a fork. You could say that we're masters of the fork, of eating with a fork, but meaning we're beyond versatile. You can put anything in front of us and we can figure out how to eat it with a fork. Right? And yet there's so many opportunities in our life with skills that aren't fully mastered, with whether that is in personal relationships, whether it's in an expression of talent, which is what really manifests when you have that gift frequency running, or it's in some other application that we see ourselves as having a potential to grow in. And I drove past Crestone on the way here. Something that that sometimes for me, and this is sort of like on the upside down range, is my blood sugar goes up and down a lot because I'm diabetic. And sometimes it goes a little bit too low. And if that happens while I'm driving, it can make me miss things that I normally wouldn't. Like I'll miss a turn, which is what I did. And I was thinking, I drove past where I should have maybe about 15 minutes, which caused me to have about a 45-minute delay in getting here and getting set up. And once I realized, wait a minute, I've been going straight way too long. This isn't right. And I stopped and I was like, I'm off course here. I need to, I need to get back to where I'm headed. And on the way back while I was driving, I was like, wow, even though I wasn't present enough, my awareness wasn't present enough to make the turn, I was able to continue driving the car without creating an accident or anything like that. The degree of mastery manifests when you can do things with an extraordinary amount of competence with zero attention. It's like it's this thing that kind of takes over your body. And I feel like this gene key is one of the few gene keys that most human beings have access to the full spectrum, all the way from the shadow through the city frequencies in some, at least some small area of life, whether it's eating a fork or brushing your teeth or something. We all have mastery over certain things. So that's kind of what I was thinking about regarding this is that it's kind of an exceptional gene key because there's a universalness about it, even if we don't feel transcendent in our chosen skill that we use in the world to deliver value to other people. Like maybe we can always get better there, but there are some things in our lives that we have absolute mastery over that we don't have to think about.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel what you're saying, there was something that you were saying that made me think about also that this is collective circuitry. I don't know what it was, but it made sense with what you said. Maybe
Mm,
collective skills, it feels like it has to do, yeah, I want to bring up the chart again somehow because it feels like
yeah.
it has to do with the circuitry on this side, on the outer, and in here on the outer is what we call it's the collective circuitry, everything that is this outer these outer pathways, both on the outsides and here in the middle, is
Mm,
collective circuitry. But on this side, this one here is logical. It's about
mm,
understanding, and
mm,
this one is abstract. So it's not.
mm.
It's and it also on the
Sure.
side you have the.
Left and right. Yeah.
And there is something here inbuilt in the 16 is just logical, and it says, it knows, it invests itself in skills that are worth mastering. It has
Mm,
that. It has that, and I can see what I'm seeing too when when you speak, like the 13 is about discernment, the 12 is about discrimination. There's something now that where that is so important, like even if you take a left turn because for some reason, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, you weren't completely alert. It's like it's the important is that discrimination of, wow, I took a left turn, or I didn't take a left turn, I continued, and now I can turn around, I can do that. And it's almost like in Gemini, things is going fast and we kind of think if we didn't take that turn it's too late. But it's
right.
that you say, when that 16 has learned to exist in the world, which is a Gemini quality, you can make yourself understood, you can understand, you can communicate, you can go to places that you need, kind of that everyday moving or traveling short distances. So the 16 it can realize, okay, discern what was that I did or didn't do, and how can I come back around, or how can I maybe do it in even a better way. And I think that's the difference between the lower frequency and the higher frequency. The lower frequency is like, okay, you know, some people are like, that's it, I don't care anymore, that's it, bye, kind of, you know. And that's connected to that 9 that we have in the earth and we have in the south node, which is a kind of inertia. Okay, that's it, and then you have thrown the towel and you don't even try. So that's the indifference. You don't care anymore, you don't have the energy to do it. And the versatility and the determination, if we look at the programming part of the 9. So versatility and determination, no, I still have time, I know that I'm supposed to be on a webinar in this much time, let me find a way, you know. And then that the 16 makes it happen, like, you know. It's that is really
Right.
a good example of the lower and the higher frequency.
Yeah, the in the 16th gene key, and I want to keep this frame up because there's something about what you just said that I want to reference in a minute. But one of the things about that shadow frequency of the 16 is, you know, it says the shadow of indifference, and we may think like, okay, well, that's a normal state, but the indifference is a state of consciousness that arises based on a particular environmental experience. And the inertia response, okay, I give up, I'm just not going to do anything, I'm not going to take action, right? That's where we've been in the past. So you can see with the earth is in 9, and that's the south node, the challenges that we've moved through in the past. And in the north node with the sun on the other side is the 16, which the 16 is a time bender. When you're in shadow frequencies with the 16, what happens is there's an inclination that we have inside to do something or be something or be somewhere, or, you know, there's an impulse to create in our life. And the 16 gets activated through that for our unique version of creation. And when that 16 gets activated, if we're running low frequency through that gate and that channel, we're going to have excuses as to why we're not going to do the thing that we were built and conceivably might be considered even came here to deliver to the world. And those, a lot of times those excuses are, I don't have enough time. Time is working against me and I can't accomplish what I want to in the time that I have. So what's the response? Don't do it. The inertia. Another response with that low frequency, another excuse is, I'm not ready yet. And I know all about that one, because if you look on the human design chart in the spleen center on the left, I have the 48 in conscious and unconscious activated, but I don't have the 16 gate. So my experience in that 48, usually the shadow frequencies there deal with inadequacy and the feeling of being inadequate for a particular task. It's really about not being willing to go to the depths that are available to us. And when we aren't able to choose that, we may feel inadequate. So that's another response to that, hey, I'm not ready yet. Oftentimes that comes out of a feeling of inadequacy. In the description of the gene keys, it talks about that particular idea as also being about time. But I don't see it as a time issue. It's just issue about is this idea that currently I am inadequate, but sometime in the future, with enough practice, with enough preparation, with enough time, I'll be able to be ready. The problem is that future never arrives because we're always creating out of our present moment. And if we're creating from a place of inadequacy, we can never become ready. So the 16, that pure expression of exuberant enthusiasm through some particular expression, is highly encouraged by movements of courage. Like if you can overcome your fear of taking action, even though you're not ready, or taking action, even though there's not enough time, or taking action, even when it looks like you should just drop everything and stop moving. Of course, if the sun were in 9, if it was flipped, we'd be having an opposite conversation. You know, if the sun was in 9 and the Earth was in 16, we'd be talking about how to move through inertia. You know, but anyways, that 16, that movement of that beginner's enthusiasm all the way through total mastery is really, it's really supported by all of these other gates that we're seeing. And I think it's really cool that the Earth is in that 9 right now, since they're the programming partners give you all of that kind of, it gives you that juxtaposition of experience. What's the difference between taking a courageous step in the direction of your dreams or sitting still and doing the same old thing? So, yeah.
I love the connection, the 16 and the 48. And I know a lot of people that I resonate with that have that 48. And I feel for me sometimes, because I have a split in my design. So with that, I have the 16, I don't have the 48. With that 48, I suddenly become a single definition, and it feels like everything makes sense. So I feel like I have sometimes tried to be that 48, you know, and the 48 has that, like you said, it's a gift of depth. And that has made me go really deep with things. And maybe sometimes it wasn't even necessary to go so deep. I think there are other things like the 6 line that wants to go, you know, that wants to understand the totality of things. I don't have a lot of first line, so it's not deep in that sense of detail, but it's deep in the sense of truth, you know. And I also have my Mercury in the 16 in the 12th house. So, and 12th house is beyond, you know, what you can see. It's beyond what's human in a way. So I have to be versatile and go really, really deep and far in those, in how I think, in how I communicate. And what I do feel is that it's really nice. There's a really nice, we call it the channel of the wavelength. It's a really good flow that's created between the 16 and the 48, because it's a tuning in and creating a wave where we have the versatility, but we also have the depth. And we also call it the channel of talent, because when you can go really wide and really deep, like nothing is missing. So there is something really, really cool with this, with that whole channel. And in the shadow frequency, I guess, you know, it is, I feel like if you have the channel of talent, hopefully from an early age, your parents give you the opportunity to try different things. Because what we know with this 48-16 is that it really needs to identify, like even if we just speak about the 16 or just the 48, it really needs to identify with the thing at hand, with the skill, so that it can go from just the technique of it till something beyond technique, where it's
Right.
mastery, where it, it becomes the song, it becomes the instrument, the dance. And that can only happen when it finds that thing that it can give itself to. And that's how the 48 too, it doesn't care about inadequacy anymore, because it's just so immersed in it. It's
Right. Yeah, there's my experience with all that entire channel has been very, very interesting, because I studied music earlier in my life, and the fact that I have that 48 and not the 16, so I don't have the full channel, it really did manifest in how I was able to perform music. I was able to perform music at an extraordinarily high level, and even able to get a taste of what an experience of mastery feels like. Certainly, I got a taste of what versatility feels like. The ability to apply a skill in literally any situation. I was a jazz musician, but sometimes I had polka gigs, or sometimes I had a funk band gig, or sometimes I was playing in a sort of classic Cuban band, which I played very little of my primary instrument in, but I was able to function at a very high level in all of those circumstances because of the honing of that skill, and because of that focus of the 48, the skills that I was able to develop never could remain in that low frequency of absolute technical focus.
Mhm.
If you've ever looked at a piece of art that was technically perfect, but you couldn't feel anything about it, or a piece of music that was performed technically perfectly, but it didn't move, you didn't feel any energy moving inside of you, or vice versa. Maybe you've seen a piece of art or heard a piece of music that technically there is stuff not really, like there were mistakes or what seemed to be mistakes, and yet you felt incredibly emotionally moved, or you felt a lot of energy move, or your mind was activated into all kinds of thoughts and ideas. This is where that 16 can easily jump into that versatility space, where the technical skill is transcended and becomes something artful, and that's capable of literally transforming the energetic makeup of someone who's a witness to that art, at least in the moment that they're witnessing it.
Yeah. I feel like there is one connection to make with the programming partner was, on the other side. No, not the programming partner. It's not what I was going to say. With the codon ring. So now we are in a codon ring that only has 2 gene keys. It's the codon ring of prosperity. And we have this 16 that we said is in the collective circuitry, which means that it cares about the collective, it cares about the future, it's logical about it, it's about improving so that we can do things better. And then we have the tribal circuitry with the 45, which is the other key in the codon ring of prosperity, which has to do with me and my tribe and getting the resources and the material foundation for your family, your tribe. So 2 different energies, but both have to do, we can say that both care about how we live together, how we move on together as humanity, I would say. And the low frequency, indifference and dominance. So the 45 is much like the king that sits on the throne, and in a high frequency it's a king. We call it goodwill in the 64 doors, because it's that king that realized that he has the responsibility to divide the resources and to use the resources in a way so that we can make more and not less. And we also liked this this activation with a hub tree to kind of know that hub, all the trees, the root network of all the trees, it's about nutrition, it's about nurturing through that network. And here the hub tree is kind of the, you know, the hub of that going on. And yeah, I feel like bringing in the 45 shows on a higher level, because the 16, the way we spoke about it, even if it's versatile and it's going to share its art and its skill and its mastery with the world, you know, when it's not until we bring in the 45 that we really see on a larger scale. If we have dominance from the few that have money, and you know, and their indifference to the people that have none, you know, that's when we can perpetuate forever that, you know, the money is the power and the few are the power, and then there's no other way out in a way. So and in order to even, because some, you know, there are so many views, and this is interesting too, because we're in Mercury with so much, you know, analyze and so much understanding and thinking. It's an air sign. So, you know, you could say when it comes to financial systems, like everything has to break down completely and be built up from the start in order for anything to shift. Or is there a way with versatility and synergy, when goodwill comes in, when versatility comes in, when we really care about building a system in a more versatile way, in a more synergistic way? Is there a way to shift into that? And I would say that the 45 and the 16 have a say in that. That we aren't speaking about Scorpio gates here. We are speaking of something that can, in a more logical way, in a more community sense, be built in without having to burn everything down or kill everything, you know, and start over. So I feel there is important message, and also that shows us the more collective part of this activation.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you brought that in. You have a comment from Kelly I want to get to, but I think that'll and your what you just shared, Bella, is a perfect, I think, a way to get into that conversation. But I want to say thank you to those who joined us on Facebook for our discussion this week on lunar alchemy and the transit that's going on right now. We will continue now with our Lunar Alchemy members and for more discussion, and also a quantum healing transmission, which is it's essentially a frequency treatment that targets the aspects of that are manifest from the shadow frequencies dominating through a particular gate or channel somewhere in our energy system that can get mucked up by the accumulation of beliefs, thoughts, experiences, traumas, anything that happens in our experience that prevents us from having a clear pathway to expressing those gift frequencies through each of our unique systems. So if you're curious about that and want to find out more about that, just leave a note in the comments. I'll respond with a link so you can explore that more. And we'll have very soon, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a place where you can go and check out what's going on with Lunar Alchemy, so you can learn more about that if you're curious. So we'll continue on with our members, and thanks for joining us live on Facebook. Let's see. I have to do that first. Okay, cool. So Kelly, I